This is Lightning Power Lunch, presented by Reif Rum on the Lightning Audio Network with Dave Mishkin and Greg Linnelli.
Gosh, I love off-season shows, don't you? I'm glad we're here. We go till 1. Free agency begins today, right now.
Yeah.
We may have some signings, officially, as I'm sure work is being done in the background. Aaron Portzline, by the way, is going to be joining us here in just a minute. Of course, he, the talented writer who covers the Blue Jackets for The Athletic. And, of course, I thought it was appropriate to have him on for various reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But Zach Werenski's name is being linked to the Tampa Bay Lightning.
He can give us the Columbus perspective on what's going on there. So a lot has happened in the last week regarding Werenski. We had a fan ask about Werenski, like, the Lightning should go out. I think the fan had Werenski, Tuck, who ended up doing a sign and trade with Washington. Yeah. There was one other player on there. I'm like, who knows if Werenski's even going to be available? He's got term left on his current contract. 2 years, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
And in the last week, it's become clear that Werenski he's requested a trade. It sounds like, I mean, Aaron will give us the details, but the long and short of it is Werenski wants to move and he has a no move clause. So he is dictating potentially where he goes. They had a deal in place to send him to Dallas for Thomas Harley, and Werenski rejected the trade. So there are a lot of moving parts here. Werenski has to find a destination that Columbus is going to move him to that's to his liking. Columbus has to be happy with the return as well, or they can just not make the move. So Aaron can kind of fill us in on kind of the urgency level on the part of Columbus to make a move just to move the guy, as opposed to saying, we're not really liking what we're seeing in terms of a return, so we're not going to make this move. The other player in Columbus who is reportedly going to be made available is Kirill Marchenko, who is a fantastic power forward, terrific goal scorer, righty shot.
Yeah.
And has had a very good NHL career so far. So again, I'm not really in the weeds on like what's going on here, but Aaron can probably fill us in.
And he's right
here.
here.
I'm sure he can on why all this is happening.
Let's bring him in. And by the way, for those just watching, yes, I am a dad. I do have that shirt on. So that is true. Aaron Portzline with us, a good friend of the show. Aaron, great to be with you, bud. I hope the off season's keeping you entertained. I'm sure maybe you didn't expect to be this busy potentially, but man, just so much happening. It feels like the last 24, 48 hours with Columbus and Werenski. What can you tell us? And do you expect things to get pretty busy here?
Yeah. So you mentioned the deal to Dallas fell apart last night. I wondered in the wake of that if Don Waddell might tap the brakes on this a little bit. He's got other stuff going on, free agency. He's got some RFAs to sign. You mentioned Marchenko. Is he going to let this sort of percolate for a little bit? Maybe Werenski comes around on Dallas. Excuse me. This has changed. This whole dynamic of this has changed in the last 24 hours where it's not amicable at all right now. And it started out to be that way. So you wonder if cooler heads maybe would prevail and Werenski looks at Dallas and says, like most players do, hey, you know what? Pretty good setup there. Pretty good situation. I can win there. That's what he wants. Maybe he changes his mind. It doesn't appear that the Blue Jackets are waiting. They're moving quickly on this. I don't think they're going to just take the best trade that they get. I think it's got to be the right trade. But it's heating up now, apparently, with Toronto and perhaps a certain team that you guys would know well, the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I don't think this is going to take long, to be honest with you.
So why do the Jackets feel they need to move him regardless? I mean, players sometimes are unhappy, and granted, he is a marquee player, just won the Norris Trophy, but he's got 2 years left on his contract. Is the situation, has it reached a point where they feel they absolutely need to move him because there's so much stuff bubbling under the surface, or they're like, you know what, you're under contract, go play. Hopefully we make the playoffs this year and, we'll change your mind.
Yeah, well, I think it's reached that point just recently, just last 24, 48 hours. It's gotten to the point where I don't think they feel like he can play another game in the sweater, to be honest with you. Before that, they're like, listen, when you tell a team you're not going to extend, that's telling them you'd like to be traded without telling them you'd like to be traded. I think, especially if you do it with 2 years left. Okay. We're not talking next July 1st when he could potentially sign an extension. He can't sign one now if he wanted to. The Blue Jackets couldn't sign him to one. You got to be in the final year. So if we're at this point next year and he says, I'm probably not going to sign an extension, okay, that's a different thing and you're moving. But 2 years left, that sounds more like a trade request than I just want to inform your future kind of message. So there's that. Also, I think we would be naive to not look at what has happened with Team USA players across the board almost. Like, this is not a new thing, and this is not a Columbus thing specifically. Columbus has lost players historically through similar means. But we're looking at Brady Tkachuk just recently. We're looking at Dylan Larkin, looking at Connor Hellebuck. Before that, Matthew Tkachuk, right? Quinn Hughes, the number of players on that Team USA that have played their way out of their situation into their desired location. It's almost like it's become a status symbol in this league. How elite are you? Are you elite enough to be able to steer your way to your preferred destination? So there's going to be a hell of a book written someday about whatever happened either at the Four Nations or in Italy at the Olympics, because that gold medal team in Italy, it's almost a significant part of that team has now changed their NHL addresses, and they're starting to sort of, it feels like they're trying to take over the league and wrest more power away from the teams and more power toward the players.
Well, let's talk about the actual hockey trade if it does happen. Aaron, on this show, I've been a big believer that the team who gets the best player in the trade usually wins the trade.
Makes sense.
And I can go all the way back to Jaromir Jagr being traded to the Capitals for 3 really good prospects that everybody tried to play up, and none of them really ever materialized. And Jagr, of course, went on to be who Jaromir Jagr was. What would the return have to be, off the top of your head, if Zach Werenski were to be dealt, let's say, to the Tampa Bay Lightning? I've got to think you're dealing with young players with term. Not really going to have too many draft picks, but you got to get some players back of some pedigree, correct?
Yeah, they're not looking for futures. Picks and prospects could be sweeteners to the trade, I've been told, but the focal point is our established NHL players. Just looking, you guys would know more than I, but looking at that Tampa Bay lineup, looking at their contractual situations and clauses attached to contracts, I would think that JJ Mosier would have to be part of it coming back. I'm not sure that he excites them as much as, say, a Thomas Harley would have with Dallas. But I mean, imagine the hole created if Werenski's going out and a defenseman is not part of what's coming back, right? So, I mean, I think they could do a deal with Toronto that is not going to include a defenseman, but it then, I would think, forces them to be moving forward for a defenseman, because they will be opening up a big hole in the back end. So think today players, think young players, think term, think established, but don't think prospects and first or second round picks other than as a sweetener.
How different is the Marchenko situation? He's got a year left. He's a younger player. I believe he's going to be restricted when this contract ends, right? So why the urgency to move him, and what are they looking for in return for Marchenko if they decide to trade him?
Yeah, I'm not sensing the urgency to move him. To me, that may be more of a figure this one out, kid. In fact, I'm a little suspicious of that on its merits. Again, you'd have to be pretty silly to cover this team for any stretch of time and not take seriously a player saying he didn't want to be here. We've seen it so many times. It's a recurring theme. But I also know the agent, Dan Milstein. I know how he works. He is a really, really good agent, has tons of clients. He sees the situation where, as of today, his player can't extend. Why not put the screws to this team? Why not? Maybe if you don't like the initial offer you've seen, dial it up a little bit. Use that leverage. Now, it's a bold spot to go, but you better believe that the players, they also have some RFAs, significant RFAs, Jet Greaves, Adam Fantilli. You better believe that they're going to try to create the concern of a of an offer sheet. This is a wounded animal right now, and agents can take advantage of that sometimes. I think the Blue Jackets are much more content to let Marchenko sit. That's back burner. They may deal with it after Werenski. I mean, excuse me, if they end up getting a trade where forwards come back and a defenseman doesn't, they may end up having to use Marchenko to leverage a defenseman coming back. So I think this is very fluid. They also arrive at free agency now going like who knows, like, what do we do? Like, where are we going? What is this going to look like in the aftermath of these two trades? What are we going to do? You sign a forward now, acquire 2 from Toronto, and now you're overloaded. You've got too many NHL contracts up front. So there's a lot of stuff here. This is not ideal. It's also not, unfortunately, it's not unfamiliar.
It's a tough place to be in for the franchise because you're fighting this perception that players don't want to be there. I'm sure the league internally is not thrilled with that happening, that, you know, this is a place basically where players go, and then when they want to move on, they move on. I mean, how do you sense, Aaron, they can kind of wrap their arms around this situation and get it to a point where players actually want to go there and they can build? I guess, you know, rest in peace, Johnny Gaudreau might have been that first one who chose Columbus, and maybe that was the thinking could turn the tide a little bit.
Yeah. So I think 2 things. I think each of these situations are different. Again, I think players typically love playing in Vancouver, and Quinn Hughes wanted out to go to Minnesota. Brady Tkachuk wanted out of Ottawa to get to Florida. Players usually love playing in Detroit. Dylan Larkin wanted out. There's a wave in this league right now, and I don't expect people to see that because Columbus does have its reputation. This only furthers that. But I'm not sure that this is a Columbus thing as much as it is a trend that we're witnessing. The other side of this, excuse me, is I do think ownership, the people in charge here, have to move into a different realm with this organization. I love Columbus, Ohio. Many people do. Lots of players do. It is often said it's a wonderful place to raise a family. To me, that sounds a lot like she's got a great personality. If you're a 22-year-old, do you know what I'm saying? If you're a 22-year-old without kids, you're not interested in a great place to raise a family. You want a city with cachet, and this is a great city with a lot of stuff to do in it. If you've been here, you know that. But it doesn't have certainly the social media cachet of a Vegas, of a Miami. There's no South Beach here. We don't have the ocean. The weather isn't great. You guys, you people in Florida have the weather and the no taxes. Not fair. So it's got some of those things to overcome. Of course, I think ownership needs to do more behind the scenes with the players, creating more of a thing here where players feel like this is truly a special place to play. They pamper the players. Every team does. I think you've got to dial it up to a point that it really draws attention and really blows people away. It's the little things. I think they need to do more of that. But this situation, I believe, is different than the others. I do. Bobrovsky wanted to be the highest paid goalie. He wasn't screaming to get out of Columbus because it was Columbus. Panarin actually liked Columbus. He just always wanted to be a Ranger. Mm-hmm. That was his team. Now Pierre-Luc Dubois wanted to get the hell out of Columbus. And there have been others.
Yeah. Duchesne wanted to go to Nashville, if I'm remembering right.
Yeah, and they didn't even offer Duchesne a contract, so that's often, misunderstood too. They were fine with him moving along. They went for it in 2019 and didn't get it done.
Jeff Carter was the only one that wanted out, right?
Jeff Carter wanted out. Adam Foote wanted back to Colorado. I mean, I could go on here. Rick Nash wanted out. Didn't want to go through another rebuild. There's a whole. I should have a whole list.
You could write a book.
Oh yeah, I plan to sometime. They do have a history for sure. I think this one does deserve to be in its own category. But also let's wait and hear from Werenski. Mm-hmm. One of the things that's a little disappointing here is he hasn't said a peep. Not a text message back, not a statement to anything, not a comment about why or what's propelling this specifically. So we look forward to those conversations.
Last one for me, Aaron, and maybe this is an unanswerable question, but had the Blue Jackets made the playoffs last year, and they were in position to make the playoffs until the very end. How much of this might have unfolded differently?
Yeah, I don't know. Brady Tkachuk made the playoffs last year.
Right.
You know,
there were other things going on there too, though.
for sure. And one of them was that his brother wasn't there.
Right.
And the other thing is that it was Ottawa, not Florida. I mean, so I don't want to give them a pass. I don't want to say that if they did, that for sure wouldn't have. I don't know. And we got to be honest. This team's won one. Well, you guys know they won one playoff series ever. They won a qualifying round the next year. That either counts or doesn't, depending on what the team you talk to. There is no history of winning here, right? This is not an original six team. Some of that stuff is not here and is not present. So it's a hard one to answer. Probably would have helped. One of the strange things about this move by Werenski is 4 years ago he was brought. Do you want to be part of this? We're going to rebuild. This is the process. And since his extension, he signed an extension. He wanted on board. Since his extension kicked in, they've gone from 31st to 29th to 20th to 18th. They've gone from 59 to 92 points. Like, they're not there, but he has gone through all of the crud and the crap of a rebuild. That the timing of this makes me think that the playoffs probably wouldn't have made a difference last year, that this was coming. But the timing of this just seems so strange, different than Nash when he pulled the plug, different than others. He's been through it, and it seems like better years are right in front of them. Of course, this changes everything.
Well, Aaron, we appreciate you taking time out of probably a busy day for all of us, but especially you. And let's see what happens in Columbus, and hopefully maybe we'll have you on down the road again here, and we'll talk a little bit more hockey. But thank you.
Look forward to it. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it, sir.
Thanks, Aaron.
All right. There he goes. Aaron Portzline covers the Blue Jackets for The Athletic.
Yeah, it's nice when you have a reporter, I'll just use the word embedded, which is probably the wrong word. It's not like they put him there and said, spend 10 years here and learn everything you can. But I mean, he has not just the current topics at his fingertips. He has a sense of history as well, because he's been there for so long. So he kind of understands more than just what's on the surface here. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, as he said, that Werenski re-upped with Columbus. He's like, I want to stay here. And the team has gotten better each year. Winning does help. I know you used the Brady Tkachuk example in Ottawa, and Ottawa has improved and made the playoffs the last 2 years. But as you mentioned, there was a lot happening there. U.S., Canada, that I don't think Werenski had. I mean, Werenski was playing for a team in the U.S. There's none of that going on with him. I do wonder if, they'd made the playoffs and maybe they won a round.
Yeah.
Would that have changed his mind? Maybe not. Maybe he had this in his head from the get-go. And maybe, as Aaron said, the discussions between the player's agent, and management has turned, that they now feel, they being Columbus, they now feel they need to move the player. But I just go back to this, Greg. You can have an unhappy player with management, but the player plays for his teammates, right? The player, the player wants to earn the money that they want to be paid on their contract. They need to go out and perform. So if Columbus just says tough, and we understand you don't like management, but you're going to go play, you think Werenski's just going to lollygag it? I don't think so. I mean, that was a question. If you're an elite athlete, don't you, the competitive juices take over and you're like, I'm not happy with my general manager, but I love my teammates and I'm going to do everything I can. They don't want to trade me? Fine. I'm going to go out and have the best year ever and, force their hand even more.
Yeah.
Or set myself up for an even bigger contract when I become a free agent. This is what I said at the beginning of this whole process. I know the Senators moved Brady Tkachuk, but if a player is under contract, the team is not under an obligation to move the player just because the player says, I want to be moved, in so many words. And we kind of heard that as much from Steve Yzerman. Yzerman met with the media and he said, look, Dylan Larkin came to me, gave me a list of teams that he'd like to be moved to. I did some research. He's like, but I'm going to operate in the best interest of the Detroit Red Wings. read into that him saying basically, if I don't get a deal that I feel is worth the player that is going back, I'm keeping the player. And he's just going to have to play. And Larkin's got, 4 or 5 years left. It's a little bit of a different situation. But according to Aaron, it looks like this deal is going to happen with Werenski.
He really did. He really did feel like
and
it was going to happen.
They're used to, unfortunately, players playing out their contract and leaving. So, but listen, they don't have to make the move now.
Werenski,
they could wait a year.
He is, we talk about Larkin, different positions, of course, but how impactful they are. Like, I think Larkin's a really good player. He's in the
category. Werenski's in the category of a Makar.
Yes.
Of a Quinn Hughes. He controls the game. He plays almost half the game.
He's a stud.
Yeah.
And so when I saw that name pop up, and was it Pierre LeBrun who had it? I mean, a lot of these insiders are going to be talking about it, of course. When I saw that come through, when I did see it, and this had to have been last night, I'm thinking, dang, you get a guy like that, that's a different player again, but, think about like Ryan McDonough-ish, like prime of his career. He's a guy who's going to play huge minutes and can impact the game in so many ways. And now it makes the loss of Radish a little bit more acceptable, maybe a lot more acceptable, because you're getting arguably, okay, if you want to say Makar is the best defenseman in the game, if you want to preface it by saying best offensive defenseman, whatever, fine, I'll give that to you. Can you make it at least an argument that Werenski is like right below him, in addition to Hughes and some other? Yeah, you could. So if you have a chance to get that guy, and we don't know what you're giving up, but Aaron said, I got like J.J. Moser.
It would be J.J. Moser plus.
Would you be willing to give up?
Well, that's a Julian
what
question.
That is.
I think some of the fans out there listening would say yes, do it in a heartbeat, and some of the fans out there would say tap the brakes.
How many?
And that's not because and look, the fans can let us know, but Moser is a different defenseman than Werenski. I mean, there are very few defensemen who are like Werenski, but Moser, it wasn't a fluke that Moser was one of the top plus-minus players in the NHL last year.
Yeah.
Moser brings an element to the Lightning's lineup that would not be exactly what you would get if you put Werenski. If you replaced Moser with Werenski, you'd get a lot more.
Yeah.
Because Werenski can do more than most other defensemen.
Correct.
But you may be giving up a little something in terms of the role that J.J. Moser filled on the Lightning.
It's a valid point.
Yeah.
And we don't know who else would be going. And this is a hypothetical, so we're not. There has been no link to J.J. Moser.
What complicates things, though, and this is what Aaron said, so many of the Lightning's established players have no move or no trade clauses themselves.
So the way I read that, you're asking for, let's say it's a Moser. I mean, coming back, you're talking about like the Dominic Jameses. You're talking about the Geekies. Young players who are ready to play, take on a bigger role. James ahead of Geeky from that perspective. I wouldn't be surprised if you had a couple of those guys in with an established veteran. I'm not saying it's going to be those two, but that's like you're not, Braden Point's not going back. I don't think an Anthony Cirelli is going back. A Hagel is not going back.
And they could refuse the trade.
They could absolutely do that.
Yeah.
But I think if you're doing this move, yes, the logical dance partner in terms of who's coming back would be, okay, I need a defenseman. I need a really good defenseman. Not going to take McDonough. Not going to take Hedman. Okay, it's probably J.J. Moser. And then from there, what else do you want within reason? And for me, since the Lightning don't have a ton of draft picks, you go to the prospect pool.
Yeah.
And that's where that package is. But in terms of Zach Werenski, I mean,
well,
that's
I know how you feel because when you have a chance to get a superstar, you
do it.
And look, I just said there are going to be, I think, a healthy portion of Lightning fans who are like, whatever it takes, do it. So They don't get a vote. You don't get a vote. I don't get a vote.
We're going to see a lot of stuff coming in. The other Robertson.
The Kings have been busy already. I just checked. They
Zuccarello.
signed Eric Halla. They signed Matt Zuccarello. They signed Eric Goodbranson, I believe. Nico Hischier re-upped in New Jersey.
Yep.
Tyson Forster re-upped in Philly, as did Dan Vladar.
Demidov got an extension.
Demidov got an extension. But, I mean, he was coming out of his entry-level deal.
$9 million. $9 million, though.
Look, he's a terrific young player.
He is.
But, I mean, he was in his first contract, so it wasn't shocking that the Canadians made that move. In fact, I think he still has a year left because he's only been in the NHL last year at the end of the year, and then this year, the year that we just had. I'm actually going to see.
Nick Robertson.
A year left. Yeah, Robertson was traded
to Pittsburgh. The other Robertson, which I was kind of chuckling about.
Yeah. By the way, Demidov has 1 year left on his entry-level deal. Then the extension kicks in. His raise was almost to times 10. $940,000 base salary to 9.1.
There you go. I saw Gudis sign for 1.5.
Oh, did he sign? Okay,
it was
I saw
like
that
5
he
or
was
6
traded.
years. Yeah.
We'll see if Carlson. So the fans were asking about John Carlson last week. So John Carlson is on an expiring contract, and today it expired, right? But his rights were traded to Carolina. It's unclear if Carolina was able to sign Carlson. And by now, I think, unless they did it already and they haven't announced it, like free agency has begun. So,
and we'll
see.
We're like everybody else. We're just kind of looking here. This is where X, or if you still want to call it Twitter, that's fine, is valuable because you can follow some of the experts who are breaking the news on their feed. So we'll be going back and forth. By the way, before we get to some comments here, what did you make of Aaron's comments about players from Team USA leaving? As if there was some sort of...
Well, they they may want to play with each other. Now with the Lightning,
is it with each other?
Players part of it, yeah. I mean, so Gensel's the only guy on the Lightning who played on Team USA. Right. And I believe Matthews is the only Toronto Maple Leaf, because Toronto and Tampa Bay are the two teams reported to have been acceptable to Werenski. But maybe they bonded. Who knows? I mean, Dallas must have had a player or two, didn't they? Ottinger, although he wasn't the main guy.
Yeah.
But Aaron's point was you have Brady Tkachuk, you have Dylan Larkin, you have Zach Werenski, you have Connor Hellebuck. These are the players that are currently under contract who are saying, I want to go somewhere else. And it already happened before the Olympics with Quinn Hughes, and a couple of years ago it happened with Matthew Tkachuk. Although Matthew Tkachuk, I think, was at the end of his contract and said, I'm not going to re-sign with Calgary. He may have had a year left.
Yeah.
And they moved him.
But it felt like with Brady,
not re-signing.
It was more of like just playing in Ottawa and winning the gold medal became too much.
Yeah.
As an American. So like I wasn't sure if it was like were guys talking before, like we want to get out of our situation.
Well, I think the Tkachuk situation is a little different because Brady is like, I want to go play with my brother. In addition to everything else, like, the no tax state, the return on the dollar is better. I mean, on a dollar cents standpoint.
This came from Darren Dreger just a few minutes ago. He said, Austin Matthews and Zach Werenski are pretty tight. The deal that Toronto would work or is working on with Columbus doesn't include Matthew Knies.
Yeah, so what Aaron said was he wasn't sure if Toronto had a defenseman that would be acceptable for Columbus. So it may be a forward, and then they would have to address the gap left by Werenski, the hole left by Werenski in some other move. So which forward would it be then? If it's not Matthew Knies, how many of the other Maple Leafs
how are you not getting
appropriate for? Yeah, I mean, if you're saying J.J. Moser needs to move to Columbus to make a deal work with the Lightning, how is Matthew Knies not part of a deal with Toronto? But who knows?
It is who knows.
As I have said, the team doesn't have to make the move. They may feel they really need to make the move. But as Aaron said, Columbus isn't just going to take whatever. So yeah, there may be urgency to move the player, but also it has to be the right package coming back.
Frosty says there's been talks that all three of Moser, Geeky, and Paul could be going for Werenski.
We'll see.
So I will say that those are the type of players.
they are all
yes,
on contracts that have no clauses attached to them.
That's probably what you're talking about. Thomas from Lute says, are the reports true that Linnelli is being traded to Pittsburgh for a Permane Brothers sandwich? I hope I'm better than a Permane Brothers sandwich at this point.
Isn't there a Permane Brothers in the Tampa Bay area?
I think there is.
I think it's in Pinellas.
How does that happen? Come on.
Does it taste the same? Have you been to that?
I don't know. I haven't.
I told you I went to a
can they sponsor the show?
Sunday place near my home in Brandon that is Pittsburgh based. I sent you a picture of it.
Yeah, was it good? Did you?
Yeah.
Did you have
milkshakes?
some?
Right? Wasn't
nice,
it that?
It was milkshakes.
You knew it. You knew
I
the
did.
place. Yeah,
I did.
We won't mention the name because they're not a sponsor. But.
Chris says, I would hate to lose Moser, but if you can get Werenski, you have to do it and figure out a way to make it work. I also love the post about Point practicing with Kucherov. Hope he gets back to form. So was that leak somewhere?
Point is practicing. Point often goes home for the summer. I don't think Braden normally stays for Camp Cooch, if you want to call it that. Cooch. And maybe he went home for a little while, but he is currently in town and doing work with Kucherov. Look, he said he wanted to work on his shot. And
He did.
Usually, if he's shooting a puck, the pass is coming from Kucherov. If they're doing drills related to that, good for them. I mentioned this when Braden had his postseason press conference and said, I need to go work on my shot. And people are like, well, is he going to kind of walk the walk? One of the guys who was always mentioned when we talk about Barb Underhill and the impact that she has had on Lightning prospects in terms of helping them improve their skating, Braden Point is usually one of the first guys mentioned. Mm-hmm. And the only way that happened was like Barb Underhill is not going to be like in your business every single day. She's going to watch the players stride, give them drills like this is what you need to work on, go work on. And she'll check in periodically, but it's up to the player to put in the work.
Sure.
Braden Point put in the work. That's how he became one of the best skaters in
the
NHL.
What a case study. Here's Braden Point, worked with me.
Well, right.
But
I mean, if Braden Point put in the work to become the skater that he is when he was younger, but even still, if he's in his head saying, I need to, I don't want to say improve his shot because he has a good shot, but like, I need to work on my shot. I think he's the sort of person based on, his history that we know he's going to put in the work.
I think it's that. And also too, something that Brian Engblom brought up a lot last year was just becoming less predictable.
Yeah.
A lot of the entering the zone and then pulling back up.
Right.
Waiting for the defenseman.
That's part of it, Greg, but also like where does he score the majority? Where has he scored many of his goals? Not the majority of his goals. He scored a lot of power play goals from the bumper. Part of the problem last year was that pass wasn't available to him, but in his mind he said, I need to get my shot off more quickly. So that is something that you can work on, the release, that is unrelated to this other category, which I understand. Phil's talked about that too, being predictable, not in a good way in terms of entering the zone with speed and pulling up to the point that the defending team is kind of ready for that. So maybe he can mix that up a little bit too. But in terms of shooting the puck, what he talked about was getting it off more quickly. And that really, to me, relates to, especially in the power play. When the puck comes to him, it needs to be off his stick before a defender can get a stick in the way and disrupt it.
What does this say? Elliot Friedman, in terms of offer sheets, he says, I don't want to get everyone's hope up, but there's lots of noise out there.
Well, what would the hope be? That there are offer sheets?
I guess.
So look, if Columbus, I'm going to go back to Columbus for a second, because Aaron said, teams or agents are like, chum in the water with offer sheets. The team that has the player who is offer sheeted can just match the offer.
Yeah.
So currently Columbus has $25 million in cap space. That's with Werenski's contract at 9.5.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I think if it's a valuable enough player for them, they can just match the offer. If they're planning, especially if they're planning on moving on from Werenski, we should mention Val Nichushkin is going to be on Columbus next year. They acquired him.
Big forward.
Yeah.
You know?
If he can stay healthy, he's also had some off-ice issues. I think
Yeah.
he entered the player recovery portal.
Substance.
If that's the right word. Yeah,
was
basically took time away.
Yeah. Right.
He came back. Like, if he's on the ice and playing and healthy, he
can be tough.
Oh, man.
He can be tough.
I mean,
He's a
he
bull.
was so dominant in that 2022 playoff run for Colorado and very good in the final against the Lightning.
Local Nomad says, are there any rumors Kucherov may be extended to be a Lightning forever today?
Well, I don't know about rumors. I do think that he is going to get extended. I don't know if it's going to be today. Today is
Kyle.
the first day that he's eligible to be extended.
Kyle says, I would have to say 86, 21, 59, 38, and 71 are off the table. If it's Moser plus Geeky and Peltier or similar, I think they have to do it. Yeah, Kyle, I think a lot of people would probably agree with you. Justin says Moser can play either side. Moser is younger by a couple of years, but we are still short defensively if we lose Moser to Werenski.
Yeah, and so that last fan is on the side of the ledger of tap the brakes, I think. The previous comment was more full speed ahead. To get Zach Werenski, whoever gets Zach Werenski, if he's in fact traded, is going to have to say goodbye to some players that the fan base likes.
Well, here's another one. Ben says Moser, Sam O'Reilly plus. Now, that would be interesting because
Yeah.
that's a guy that...
Sam O'Reilly, I mean, the Lightning are really, really
Very
high
high
on
on
him. He's a development camp right
Yeah.
now, actually.
Yeah. Doug says include Chernak and keep Moser. Unfortunately, I don't think the Lightning are going to have a say, but you can't force Columbus to take
Right, and
somebody
the other
they don't
thing,
want.
so I'll just say this about a player like a Sam O'Reilly, or you even mentioned Dominic James.
Yeah.
The Blue Jackets actually have quite a few good young forwards. They do.
Yeah.
They've had high picks. So, and I mean, look, Charlie Coyle re-up there. So all this talk about, like, people don't want to stay in Columbus. Now, Coyle fits the category of great place to raise a family, right? He's 34. I don't know if he has a family, but he's in a different position. Monahan likes it there too. But you've got Kent Johnson. You've got Fantilli, who's an RFA. You got Cole Sillinger, who's an RFA. I'm just looking at some of the other young players that they have. Miles Wood is 30. I mean, I guess I feel that the number was higher. Provorov re-signed there. So, I mean, there were players that wanted to stay in Columbus.
Aren't they trying to re-sign Boone Jenner, their captain?
Yeah, and
feel
I
like
mean, he's in a little bit of a different
an older
boat because
guy,
he's
too.
33. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Voronkov. So, I mean, look, they have some younger players that they have gotten in the draft, and Marchenko's another one. And as Aaron said, they may just decide to hold on to him. I don't know if there's as much need. Like, the need would be, who do we have to play defense if we move Werenski? They have, actually, look at their list here. They have Provorov, they have Damon Severson, they have Dante Fabro. Matejchuk is a young defenseman who's a high draft pick, and they like him.
Moser makes a lot of sense going back for them.
Yeah,
if that's the deal.
They're losing. I mean, what that fan said about what the Lightning, the Lightning maybe. It's hard to say Zach Werenski isn't a good defender. Okay, I'm just saying that J.J. Moser turned into kind of the shutdown defenseman for the Lightning last year when McDonough was out. I'm not sure that Werenski is not Jacob Slavin. If Jacob Slavin is the gold standard for that sort of player, Moser is kind of in that lane. Werenski's in a little bit of a different lane. So if Moser leaves, somebody else needs to kind of fill that lane for the Lightning, assuming, McDonough may be able to do it like he's done it the last couple of years when he's been in the lineup and healthy. But eventually, someone's going to need to kind of fill that part. On the Columbus side, if you're plugging in Moser for Werenski, you need offense.
Yeah.
You need something. It doesn't have to. I mean, you're not going to find another Werenski, but you need some pop offensively to replace what left. And Moser has some offensive ability. I mean, he did score in overtime in the playoffs, but these other guys I mentioned, I mean, can Provorov fill that role? I like Matejchuk. I haven't seen a lot of him, but is he?
And I'll play
that sort of player?
So I'll play devil's advocate with you. I don't disagree with your analysis, by the way. I think it is spot on. Moser had a tremendous year, but yet this was still a team that was bounced in the first round. Now, that's not all him, of course. It's not.
No.
But
and he played well in the playoffs.
Werenski is a dynamic player. You could make the case he'll be their most dynamic defenseman.
Yeah.
Even with Hedman. Because you don't know where Hedman is.
Right.
You hope he's going to be back.
And you
doing
can
his
lean
thing.
on him.
Yes.
Now, look, the Lightning historically have not played their top defenseman, Hedman, let's just say,
Yes.
in that 27, 28 minute per game range.
That is correct.
That is what Werenski has tended to play.
Correct.
With Columbus. I'd have to go back and look. But he's usually right up there in ice time. If he's in number one, he's in the top 5. Let's say he's usually, I think, second or third if he isn't first. I think Quinn Hughes led the league last year because he played even more in Minnesota than he did when he was in Vancouver. So that's a little bit of a different situation from how the Lightning have tended to run things. But when you have, let's just call it like a horse like Werenski, you have that option to be able to play him.
And the other thing, too,
that
is
much.
He's going to have the puck on his stick a lot because
Yes,
he
he
plays
is.
a lot. And that's so you have to weigh those positives. So what Moser does from a defensive perspective,
Right.
yeah, maybe Werenski's not as good as a defensive defenseman.
He's just a different player.
But he's going to be
yeah.
impacting the game in a way that Moser can't even dream of in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Because of what he can do offensively. Michael says, whatever Tampa does, it needs to be something. 4 straight years of first-round exits is unacceptable for an elite team. There is no easy way to do it, but change is needed somewhere now, not 10 years later. So there's somebody who's basically, I think I take that Michael is saying the status quo over the last 4 years is unacceptable, and it needs to do something to mix it up. I'm not disagreeing with it. I'm not saying that's the right opinion, but I get that. I get that line of thinking because it's almost like, okay, so what have you done the last 4 years? And this is the standard with the Tampa Bay Lightning is championship. That's where they are.
Yeah.
You can agree or disagree with that. That, by the way, that's actually where you want to be as a franchise. You don't think Columbus wants to change places with Tampa Bay?
So the only thing I'll say back to that, the comment from the fan is, let's say the Lightning had gotten to the Eastern Conference Final and lost to Carolina. Let's say that the playoffs had gone better. I'm giving the respect that Carolina earned and just saying they would have won the cup regardless of what happened elsewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. But let's say this was not a first round exit for the Lightning. Let's say they beat Montreal. Let's say that they beat Buffalo. Let's follow that path. And they lost to Carolina. And people were like, well, they didn't win the cup. Are they a cup team still? But, we can't say that they lost in the first round 4 years in a row. I don't think this changes what's going on with Werenski as a possible landing spot in Tampa with the Tampa Bay Lightning 1 iota. I think that we're in the same boat, whether the Lightning lost in the first round or lost later, or even won the Stanley Cup. I think this is its own topic, and the fans may say, well, they lost in the first round again. They have to do something. I don't think that that's the way Julian operates, but making a bold move that makes sense because a player has told the team he's with that Tampa Bay is one of his preferred destinations and you want to add the player, that's different. That's not the Lightning knocking on Columbus's door and saying, we need to make a change because we've lost in the first round 4 years in a row. Let's find out if Zach Werenski is somehow available. That's not how this unfolded. I think the Lightning were more in the receiving end of, can we possibly make this work? I will read a couple of other notes. Corey Perry re-signed in L.A., re-signed because he was there last year.
Yeah.
Eetu Luostarinen signed an 8-year extension with the Panthers. And I see This from Pierre LeBrun. John Carlson has not closed the door to Carolina, but the Hurricanes couldn't close the deal before noon. So Carlson's agent, Rick Curran, now taking calls from other teams as well. I think Tampa Bay and Philadelphia are among them. We'll see where this goes for the number one UFAD. So
Interesting.
they traded, I think that they traded a guy who was in their system, but a pending RFA and a draft pick.
Right.
So maybe they weren't even planning on extending the RFA. They were going to walk away. So they sent the rights to this player and a draft pick for Carlson's rights, but it turned out not to work out. This is what we were talking about with the Darren Radish situation last week. It sounded like, you're not really supposed to talk to a player who's not, like the window for free agency opens a few days before free agency. You're not really supposed to have a deal in place before that. But as quickly as they got the deal done, there was enough smoke there that between the teams, they were basically set up an 8 times 8.5 for Radish. By trading him, the Leafs were able to offer the 8th deal, and they got him signed before free agency opened. If you don't have that in place and you just trade to get the player's rights, the player may say, I'm not going to sign with you, or we negotiated and nothing was to my liking, so I'm going to test the market.
What's interesting is that a couple of these players, Robertson and Werenski, feel like they're holding the cards the most because they're dictating specifically which teams they want to go to. So those teams, their teams they're currently on, really have to thread the needle.
Columbus just signed Ryan Lomberg, by the way.
There you go.
Yeah.
I agree with you that if you come back as a professional, you've got to be ready to go. But it does make it interesting if you don't expand that list to only 2 or 3 teams. I mean, not everybody's got a deep farm system.
And the team that you're asking to be traded from, as I have said, may decide not to make the trade.
Agreed. Darren Dreger regarding Zach Werenski and the Lightning. I have heard a Connor Geeky JJ Moser package, which is what
it would be exactly, if that's true, exactly what the Lightning got in trading Sergachev.
Yes. Just reading some things that are coming through. Interesting. So that is what it is. We'll see if anything materializes before we do sign off. And I think we are planning to do more shows as the summer goes on. So we'll have that analysis moving forward.
And we should mention, if fans want to come out for development camp, which is happening right now, and you can watch Barb Underhill work magic
with
the iPad out, filming the players' skating stride. But the 3-on-3 tournament that is actual hockey, right? It's a 2-day tournament, like a round robin. It starts tomorrow afternoon and concludes Friday. I feel like usually it's Friday, Saturday, but Saturday is the 4th of July. So maybe that's a reason why they did it Thursday, Friday. I believe the Friday conclusion of the 3-on-3 starts at noon. So they're starting it, usually it's in the morning. So I think they wanted the extra morning as an extra work day. So we didn't even get into the Lightning's draft. They drafted 6 players? They traded the pick that they got in the Radish trade to move up in the second round and take, I believe it's pronounced Kulibiakin, who came from Russia. He's actually on the ice right now in Brandon. Maybe not right now, but he's involved in development camp after he missed yesterday because he was traveling. So the Lightning were very high on this guy. They moved up 5-6 spots to take him. And
were they all
Russian, a huge Kucherov
all foreigners,
fan.
I think, the draft for
Say
the
that
most
again?
part. Were they all foreigners? I didn't see many Canadians or Americans picked. I thought
There is one, and he's there. Again, I'm not sure of the pronunciations.
Yeah.
So that is
certainly don't ask me to pronounce them.
yes. So Cooper Solar, I think he was maybe one of their 5th round picks, if I'm remembering right. But yeah, I think he's North American for sure, and he's out of the USHL, and I think he's slated to play college. But yes, you're right. The majority of them were overseas, although some of those overseas Europeans have been playing in North America, including Kulibiakin, who played in the Quebec League last year.
It was interesting because I don't know if that had anything to do with outlets who are giving their rankings on how teams did. I think it's a little bit ridiculous to do it, particularly with the NHL when it takes sometimes 4 or 5 years for these players to get to the NHL. But I think the Athletic felt like the Lightning were one of the few teams that didn't have a great draft, but I'm wondering how much of that was just because the Lightning scouted these guys and liked them just more than what these scouting services had.
It's hard to know. I mean, honestly, Greg, it really is hard to know when someone's drafted at 18.
I agree.
Now,
I agree.
The guy they took in the third round, who's from Slovakia, was an overage. He was 20. So I guess his stock improved from the time he was 18. Tomáš Krlovic. I'm guessing that's how you say his name. He's Slovakian. But for the most part, you know, these players who are drafted are 18. What did we just say about Braden Point? Braden Point at 18 did not skate the way that he skated by the time he turned 20. He improved that much in 2 years as he was getting ready to turn pro. So it's a little different than, you know, ranking, let's say, the NFL draft or the NBA draft, where a lot of these players are coming right to the team that drafted them. Hockey's different. There's a little bit of guesswork there. And that is true for the staffs that are trying to, like, determine career trajectory, right? That's why you can swing and miss on some first rounders, and why some third and fourth rounders turn out to be, like, if you redid the draft, they would be first rounders.
Justin also said, I think Tampa needs a top 6 more than a defender, in his opinion. The problem wasn't defense in the playoffs. Scoring was, and as great as Gonçalves was on that Kucherov line, Tampa needs an upgrade there. Interesting.
Well, Braden Point playing the way Braden Point has played, he had an off year last year. Nick Paul had an off year last year. Both had injuries.
Yep.
You may be seeing a Sam O'Reilly come to the NHL this year. I'm tapping the brakes a little bit on that because I'm echoing the way Julian framed it, which is they want to make sure that he's ready. But I think they feel this guy is going to be an NHLer before too long.
Face-off.
So you don't have to make an acquisition to like, you have players within your system either are going to need to have kind of resurgent years or just grow into a role or a bigger role. I would like to see, you know, a terrific year again from Dominic James, and let's see if he can take a step forward this upcoming year.
That I would agree with you on that, and I also think let's not overthink this. If Braden Point gets back to being a 40-goal scorer, that's going to solve some of those problems that you think, not you, but fans may think plague them offensively in the playoffs. But, you know, certainly something to keep in mind. I'm trying to look at X to see if anything's coming in. Let's see here. This is from Ryan. I think the trickiest thing for the Bolts and Werenski is that they can't extend him now. What will he want in 2 years? Will we have room in Cooch and Vasi? If we get Werenski too, though, I would do multiple backflips and fist pumps.
Yeah.
Is that let's worry about it when we get there?
Now, if this is a destination for Werenski, you would figure that he's looking to stay, right?
Yes.
But
and I hope people understand this is where you want to be as a franchise. When players have you on a short list, superstars, it's happened multiple times. When you have athletes who are high-end players that take less to sign with you so you can win a championship. This is like anti-Columbus. And I feel for the people in Columbus. I do. It's a really good sports town. But Tampa Bay at some point was also in Columbus's position. They had to figure it out. Now, geographically, you can't change that. So yes, that is in Tampa Bay's favor.
We do have a breaking news item. Greg, the Lightning have signed Ilya Mikheyev former Toronto Maple Leaf, and more recently with Chicago, to a
Yes.
4-year contract.
Interesting.
31 years old. Actually, the agent broke that. So
Some breaking
Dan
news there.
Milstein, who Aaron was just talking about, who also represents Marchenko. He had
That
18
breaking
goals
news?
last year with Chicago.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. I want to get this in. So if you want to react to that, you can here on the show. By the way, enjoy some Reif Rum, smooth, versatile, now pouring at Benchmark International Arena. Order a Tropical Wave or a Lightning Mule and taste why fans are switching. Reif Rum is a premium craft Florida local rum built on authenticity, quality, and easy drinkability. Ask for Reif Rum by name. Go Bolts. Enjoy responsibly. So there you go, Mish, with breaking news there for the Lightning. I know a lot of people have asked about Kucherov signing and Vasi signing, and I just don't know when that will happen.
Vasi needs another year. Vasi's not eligible
point.
to re-sign
Good
yet.
point. Elliot Friedman thinks Sergei
By the way,
Bobrovsky is going to be a Leaf.
Pierre LeBrun, 4 years from McKayev at 3.85.
Okay.
Sorry. What did you say? I talked over you.
No, that's okay. Elliot Friedman is saying he thinks Sergei Bobrovsky is going to be a Leaf. That's, I'm sure, information he's getting
Yeah.
close to it. Just scrolling here through. We did have, for those just joining us, we did have Aaron Portzline on earlier to talk about Zach Werenski
Yeah.
when that broke out, so we appreciated him hopping on. Aaron really felt like that was going to happen pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
They're being aggressive with it, for
Yeah.
sure.
What's Kraken say here? I like that as a bottom six, I think. It's the Blackhawks, but he was a top 4 in points for the team.
Yeah. I mean, he's shown the ability to score. I do think that he would probably slot in as a bottom 6.
Yeah. Does that strengthen your bottom 6? Does that pave the way for somebody in the bottom 6 to go back in a trade to get
Maybe.
Werenski?
But the Lightning had some
some.
openings in the bottom 6 too,
Yeah.
because, or just at forward, let's say, because they move guys around. But, Perry's not back. Bjorkstrand's not back. So,
Steve says, would you rather get Carlson and keep Moser or get Werenski and lose Moser?
well, look, I'm going to look at it as a positive no matter what happens.
Either way, right?
Right.
Either way.
I really, really like J.J. Moser. But if Columbus is looking to move Zach Werenski, Columbus also really likes J.J. Moser and saw what he did last year. So if the Lightning do not get Zach Werenski and they have Moser under contract for the next 6 years, I think that was the length of his extension, great. If they get one of the top defensemen, most dynamic players in the NHL, great, right? I mean, that's the way to look at it.
I would
We
agree.
talked about John Carlson. I
Yeah.
think John Carlson would help the Lightning.
I mean, if you're
Offensively.
asking me in the order, I'm a Werenski guy. I love him. Moser was fantastic, and then I'd go Carlson. So, my 3 there. So, I think, again, Werenski's the best player out of that group. All 3 of those players are going to help your team. Interestingly, in different ways, too. In some ways. Are you going to say Werenski right now is more like Carlson? Carlson, you just feel like has that big shot from the point on the power play.
Yeah.
That's going to really be his forte, and he's going to help. He's played well. He's older.
And, for a guy who is older, he's always had a great stick. It's like Radish in a way. The puck is very calm on his stick. He tends to make the smart play out of the defensive zone. Again, I didn't see him game in, game out. So I don't know where his game is relative to where it was, let's just say, in his prime.
Yeah.
But I do think he played pretty well for Anaheim. And there's a reason why he is considered the number 1 UFA defenseman right now after the Radish trade. I think before that, the sign and trade for Radish. Before that, I think Radish was the top guy because he's younger. Carlson can still play. Carlson has a bomb. Carlson will help your power play. Carlson can help you in areas outside your power play too, based on his ability still and his experience and his hockey sense. He just doesn't have a lot of runway left at age whatever he is, 37, 38. So it's got to be a short-term deal.
We'll see what happens. Let me take one last look, partner, on X here before we sign off, just to see if anything.
Jeffrey
is happening.
VL signs with the Lightning.
5 years, 2.5.
Yeah. So I want to say he was in Anaheim as well last year. And I'm actually, before we sign off,
Let's
I'm
look
gonna
him up.
look him up. Yeah. I want to say that he did some damage in the playoffs. But let's look him up. So the Lightning have been active before we got off the air.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
Yeah, so I remember he was in Boston. They moved him to Anaheim, and he had a couple of goals in the playoffs. He's hard-nosed. Like, he's got some jam to his game. So he was traded from the Bruins to the Ducks. In 35 games with the Ducks after the trade, he had 3 goals, 10 points, 49 penalty minutes. He had 17 penalty minutes in 12 playoff games. So he played every game for Anaheim in the playoffs. He's a sandpaper player.
So a couple of depth guys, that the Lightning are getting.
Yes, for sure.
And we'll say, and look,
They signed him for 5 years, though. I mean, the money is not onerous, 2.5.
and look, Peltier's got to be on the team next year, correct? Or this year?
Well,
right?
he's on a
Doesn't
one-way.
his-
He's on a
I mean,
one-way.
it's one way. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not he has to, but I mean, it contractually it makes sense. But and he's somebody that had a big year last year, so interesting to see how this will all develop and shape.
Yeah.
out. And we'll have lots to talk about next time we're on the airwaves. Part of
Yes.
great job. We had a ton of people listening today, by the way.
Yeah, well,
Great
it's free
job.
agency day, so
We love
we're
that.
not quite at the TSN Sports Center
That's all right.
first day, but
Next
thanks
time we'll
for
get
tuning
Elliot.
in, everyone. Look, and that was a great job by you to bring in Aaron to give us some insight on the Columbus side, and we'll see if anything breaks
See if it happens.
there. I know you are out next week, but maybe we can still cobble together a
Yeah,
show
I'm sure.
with a substitute until
Put
you
it all
get
together.
back.
We'll
Yes.
Put it all together.
We'll figure something out. Keep
All
your
right.
ears open and your eyes open for any social media posts about a show next week.
So somebody is saying Carlisle was gone, went to the Penguins. Do we want
As
to
a
look
group
at that?
6, yeah. So he was eligible to sign elsewhere. Yeah, Declan Carlisle, 2 years and 1.5.
We
Now, I
liked
will
him.
say this.
We
I
liked
feel
him.
that the Lightning do have some depth on defense in that.
They do.
Like in the area where Carlisle fit.
Yes. We liked him, though.
But congratulations to
Yeah,
him.
we liked him.
Yeah.
We liked him.
That's a one-way deal, I'm sure.
Yeah,
and
good for him.
He got a little security there, 2 years.
Ryan
So-
says we're better than TSN. Ryan, we appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, you may be a little biased, but
Love
we
it.
appreciate it.
All right. Partner, great job as always. Great speaking
Yeah, you
to
too.
you. Good job today. Thanks to Steve Versnick as well. And thanks to you for listening, everybody. We appreciate it. Don't forget, during the season, weekdays, noon to 1. So we'll have a show Monday through Friday. Now we're just doing one show a week to keep things going. But we appreciate
We've had stuff to talk
all of you.
about, though.
We
And
have.
thanks to the fans for
no doubt.
contributing.
No doubt. We appreciate that. All right. You have been listening to Power Lunch right here on Lightning Radio.